What up, DC family?
It's your boy Dre.
And this your girl Cash.
We back with another video.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Back with some more casual geographic.
Yes.
So it's education time. Y'all already know it's time to learn some interesting facts. We got why moose are the greatest threat to national security. And if you don't already know why moose is, why it's the greatest threat, this is a video for you. Those big animals. I'm gonna just let him do the talking, man. Y'all do go ahead and subscribe to the channel, yo. Let's go.
Moose are one of those animals. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that you could look at this picture 900 times and a 901st will still put bricks in your pants. Also, fun fact, this picture's probably the reason you even know I exist. One of the first animal videos I ever made was dedicated to how much of a middle finger this was to my peace of mind. What was true back then is still very much true today. At up to 1,700 pounds and 7 feet tall.
Damn.
At the shoulders, the moose is always
This is crazy. That's real.
Yeah.
It's just, I can't even picture standing in front of a moose and just...
I wouldn't even want to.
Not standing in front of it, but just standing there
like
seeing it that big.
At up to 1,700 pounds and 7 feet tall.
It looks like they're amazed too.
At the shoulders, the moose is always going to be one of those animals God forgot to put a size cap on. Moose are part of the Capreolinae deer family. Only problem is this roy deer is closer in size to an elephant than to a full-grown Bambi. Because you probably think I'm blind, the largest Alaskan moose ever caught was 1,808 pounds and 10 feet tall if you count the antlers.
Jeez.
But like, why wouldn't you? Moose are broken in many ways, but the most obvious is how god big they are.
I think I better show back.
You reckon?
The problem with being built like a truck with antlers is that very few things in nature have the ability or the audacity to ever try to check you. And while moose calves are obviously vulnerable to predators, there just aren't enough things in the world that are bold enough, desperate enough, or stupid enough to want smoke with a full-grown bull moose. And while wolves might hunt them, even a wolf pack will hesitate to test a healthy male moose's ability to turn you into past tense. And as solitary hunters that occasionally get their pushed in by smaller animals like the guanaco, most cougars won't even bother with a full-grown moose. In some places, grizzly bears have been known to murk adult moose, but when the only thing in your area code that has even a chance at humbling you is literally one of the largest predators on the planet, that is a problem. And if you're 10 feet tall, pushing 2,000 pounds, wearing tree branches for a hat, a bear isn't going to try you unless it's its last possible option. Which is why one of the biggest threats to a healthy, full-grown, aggressive bull moose is an even bigger, aggressive bull moose. And that's because in what I can only describe as a dick move from nature, the same antlers that help it get laid are often what gets it laid to rest. Sometimes fighting males will get their antlers locked together, and that's basically a death sentence. Those two moose that are stuck together and can't break free will either starve to death, die of exhaustion, or a lucky bear will find them and take the 2 for 1. Exhibit A, these are 2 male moose that got locked together and ended up freezing in a lake. And speaking of lakes, moose can swim. Because of course they can. I don't know who told them, a moose somehow figured out there's a good amount of food in lakes, so they'll dive up to 20 feet down to feed on the aquatic plants and vegetation at the lake bottom.
They'll dive 20 feet?
20 feet.
Dang.
I never knew that.
I never knew that for real. Like, to that time, too. But that's a different thing about the hippos. How fast they are on water and everything, too. Like, I learned a lot of stuff from him.
You sure do learn
real
stuff.
Worse than me, it's really not uncommon to see a moose swimming in an inlet connected to the sea or phelps.
Wait a minute, did that moose just fell off the cliff? You see it?
It's better swimmers than me. It's really not uncommon to see a moose swimming in an inlet connected to the sea or phelps in between islands as they search for food. And at this point, you probably know exactly what direction this video is about to go. Because this right here is how this ends up happening. Because the moose is basically defenseless in the water, and because orcas always choose violence, the killer whale is the only known marine predator of the moose. To be fair, Greenland sharks have been found with moose remains in their stomach, but for my mental health, we're going to assume the moose are already dead. But the truly messed up part is the only reason the moose even put themselves in this position is because they were looking for food. It's like finding a shortcut to Stop and Shop and then getting clapped in the car at a red light on the way there. And since orcas don't see humans as a reliable food source, at least once in the history of mankind, some guy lived through this and probably never slept well ever again. So his therapist drives a Bentley. And that's basically a walking snowplow. An adult moose can sprint through 6 feet of snow at about 15 miles per hour. Those numbers might not mean much to you, but I can personally guarantee you this video will. Ask yourself what's scarier, this moose running through snow or what in the possible it could be running from. And then there's this. I don't even really know how to describe this. 2 options, either the water's shallow or that's Jesus Christ in moose form.
Hey, I'm thinking
the same thing.
I was in my head like, yo.
That moose is really running on water. Like, literally, like, come on. The hell?
2 options, either the water's shallow or that's Jesus Christ in moose form. The Messiah, if you will. For an animal that's dead-ass big enough and tall enough to have its own Wi-Fi, moose can sprint at top speeds of 35 miles per hour. Usain Bolt at his best maxed out at just under 28 miles, meaning not even he could run from the smoke. Now there's probably 2 reasons why you've never seen a moose run at top speed. Well, number 1, when you're built like a tree with legs, there isn't a whole lot in the world you need to run from.
Right.
And number 2, anyone that manages to motivate a several 100-pound moose into breaking an Olympic record probably isn't going to be alive to talk about it. In a country with bears, cougars, and Florida, the most dangerous animal of all is a 10-foot vegan with antlers. But it's not really their fault. Moose are deer, and as a rule, deer are just menaces to society. In America, deer cause about 1 million car accidents a year and about $1 billion worth
Yeah, and they
of
attack
damage
you
on
too.
top of it. And the moose is by far the worst deer to hit. On a scale from 1 to absolutely your bunkmates would want to see if this antler Grim Reaper is ever on the road with you. They say you should never swerve to avoid hitting an animal 95% of the time because you can lose control of your vehicle and end up hitting something way worse. That 5% is reserved for when this is on the road, because if your choices are hitting a moose or swerving, then your next choices are open or closed casket. And because moose are so disrespectfully tall, hitting a moose often means taking out its legs. The bigger you are, the harder you fall. Only problem is moose are so goddamn big that they can often
Damn, hold up.
That moose went through that car. Oh, man.
Whoa, that person survived.
Right.
That's crazy.
A headline. The worst part, only problem is moose are so goddamn big that they can often fall through your windshield and then put you on a headline. The worst part is because they're so tall, their eyes don't reflect in your headlights the way they would for a normal sized deer. That combined with their blatant disregard for anyone else's life means in moose country you can easily go from a person to a pack faster than you can brake. According to the internet, if you're about to hit a moose, the best advice is to slow down, don't swerve, and pray to whoever you believe in. Just know that if it ever comes down to your car versus a moose, the moose might walk away, but you're not coming out of there without wings and a halo.
Damn. Boy, I mean, how do we say so? With wings and
You ain't coming out there without wings and a halo. You already know what time it is.
Moose might walk away, but you're not coming out of there without wings and a halo. But of course, moose don't need to be on the road to put you on a stretcher, and this is what makes them worse than the cougars and bears of the world. Predators like mountain lions or grizzlies don't normally see humans as happy meals, so most encounters are either territorial because some dude was either unlucky enough or stupid enough to get too close to their cubs.
Right.
These guys are different. Different as in they'll river dance all over your back, and they don't really need a reason to do it. As big as they are, they're still a very much valuable prey animal, especially if they're young or sick. And due to the generational trauma of being constantly hunted, moose are naturally wary, which makes them much more likely to attack unprovoked. It gets worse when people forget that they only have one chance at life and attempt to waste it by feeding a moose. This often leads not just moose but wild animals in general to associate humans with food, and with association comes expectations. A moose that's constantly been fed by humans is only going to expect food whenever it sees them. In a moose's head, it just makes sense. And failing to meet a moose's expectations is exactly how heaven gains angels. But a moose is at its most volatile when it's in rut. For those of you that don't know what rut is when male animals like camel or deer experience a surge in testosterone, which causes them to become more aggressive and more interested in mating. And for those of you that already know what rut is, I know how you know. I know how you know. Testosterone turns them into 10-foot frat boys on spring break, and sometimes they cause just as much damage. Every year in America and Canada, people visit the emergency room because they got too close to a moose, and that moose decided to play hopscotch on
It
them.
was out of there.
I don't blame him.
Sometimes moose cut out the middleman completely and just pull up to hospitals themselves.
Oh, wow. They actually...
Grocery store?
I think he said hospital or something. Oh, look like a grocery store.
Because moose are such a roadblock on the highway of life, once upon a time the USSR actually tried to domesticate these deer on steroids and then ride the tanklers into battle on a moose cavalry.
God.
Results were mixed. Once again, as a prey animal, the moose were naturally terrified of gunfire, and many of them refused to allow themselves to be ridden into battle. Not to mention the moose were much more susceptible to diseases and much harder to feed than horses, so yeah, it was up for that. But there had to have been one kid that joined the military to pay for college only to have his ops pull up on a whole-ass moose. If we're being honest here, that story just says more about the Soviet Union than it does about the moose.
Yeah.
But back to the moose. Are overgrown, all-terrain vehicles with legs, antlers, and audacity, and probably the reason Canadians are so polite. Their landlords are moose and they pay taxes to geese. You'd be humble too. Pretty sure this is the part of the video where I'm supposed to tell y'all to subscribe. Have a nice day.
Yeah.
Alright, so moose drop their antlers every year but grow them back in the spring because they use them to flex for females. And at first the antlers grow inside this soft skin with tiny hairs called velvet. But eventually the moose has a surge of testosterone where they basically become 7-foot frat boys on spring break. That's when the velvet sheds and the bones of the antlers harden. The velvet stays on the antlers for about 3 to 4 months until the moose rubs up against trees and bushes to remove them. Which is why they look like they bundied somebody. As much as a crime as this looks like, it doesn't hurt the moose at all, and it's a lot like snakes shedding their skin. If anything, it's more like an annoying itch. Also, when a bull moose wants to pull a female, they use cologne just like you and me. Except their version involves digging a pit, peeing into the pit, and then rubbing and splashing the golden pool all over their antlers the R. Kelly way. Clearly they know what they're doing because smelling liquid sunshine causes the female moose to ovulate because nature's just weird like that.
Hey, that is weird.
Damn.
Nature is different.
For real.
Moose.
Well, it's just a Mendocino. big ass moose. As soon as you walk out the house and you just come across a big ass moose standing right there staring at you.
Staring at
ready
your
to attack.
face.
You already closed the door and locked the door and everything. You turn around and
You know, what if you don't did something to walk off in the yard somewhere, then it's right around there, you try to run. A damn big moose like that runs up to 35 miles an hour. 35 miles per hour, yo.
like I say, you get
Minimum
chased by a
28.
moose, you might as well just go ahead and lay down. 'Cause
Get your halo, like you say, your wings, everything already ready for you, and
go ahead and lay it down.
That's it. That was Cap's Geographic, y'all. Why moose are the greatest threat to national security. Let us know y'all opinions, how y'all feel about that down below in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe and put a like on this video. You got anything for him?
Yeah, that's fun.
I go by the name Dre Hall.
I go by the name Cash.
Catch y'all next one.
Next one.